Good day, everyone. It's my privilege to be here in front of you for SIMSAC 10. I still recall the SIMSAC that I went to Nagaland. It was such a beautifully organized program where I could meet several of the northeastern farmers. It was my first trip to Northeast, and it really opened my eyes. Thank you, organizers, for inviting me over here. It's a real privilege to be in front of all of you. Much as I would have liked to present this to you in person, thanks to COVID, most of our businesses are now virtual, and so are the conferences. But that doesn't take away what we are here to discuss and engage ourselves in. Very interestingly, the topic given to me is very dear to my heart: spice processing and value addition, an evolution of indefinite and huge proportions. That's something that we have seen over the last several centuries, and it's beyond centuries actually. If you look at the history of spices, I would actually look back close to almost 4,000 years. We have recorded evidences of Arab traders traveling from the Middle East into India, both by land and sea route in their dhows, close to almost 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago. They were the first, and they were trading off the coast of Malabar with the princely states of the erstwhile Travancore kingdoms. It was one of the biggest traded items in the world at that point of time. And not only did spice create wealth for India, it also attracted colonization. And what really happened, the whole geopolitical scene and the trade routes were opened up purely because of spices, and the face of the world changed because of spices. And let me tell you why. We've all heard this wonderful story about Christopher Columbus discovering the New World. How did that happen? He went in search of India. And where did he end up? He's a poor navigator. I assume that he ended up straight opposite of where he was supposed to go. But that's how the New World was discovered. That's how America came into being. That's the relevance of spices. And to think, for years after that, and the Portuguese, Vasco da Gama, landed here in the beaches of Kapad, which is now Calicut in Kerala, around mid-1400s, and we know the history of India, how it has changed after that. I think the best person to talk about the change of India since colonization is Mr. Shashi Tharoor, and he can go very eloquently on what that did to India and where India would have been had it not been for colonization. That's a discussion for another day. But coming back to spices, it has always been so relevant, not just in our food, but also in Ayurveda. There is not a single Ayurvedic concoction or an ointment that does not have spices in it. What has been the journey of spice processing across the years? Spices started with whole spices, and that's what people across the world came into India for. Black pepper, ginger, turmeric, cassia, nutmeg, cinnamon. These were very indigenous, and people came from all over the world to trade in these raw materials. From there, we kind of started grading of spices, bagging of spices, and there is a little bit of value addition there, from where we then graduated to processing in terms of powdering and making it easier for food applications. And all this time it was only used for food, although in Ayurveda and in traditional Indian medicine it was used for several other purposes, not just in food but also for treatments. From the trading of ground spices then to trading of raw bagged spices, then to powdered spices, it went into private labeling and packaged retail spices globally, with industrialization, with globalization, with the world becoming smaller, spices also went to other parts of the world where it was beginning to be cultivated. Mostly in and around Asia, where 20 degrees north and south of the equator, that's very conducive for spices, with warm and humid temperatures. So Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Brazil down south, all these were prime became prime spice producing countries from mid 1900s in the 20th century. However, along with these, there are also several challenges. If you look at the evolution of spices in India itself, we had, I would say, the Green Revolution started sometimes in the mid 1950s to early 1960s. The need of the hour at that point of time was self-reliance on food. So with Green Revolution, we brought in chemicals, fertilizers to improve productivity per acre, which was a need of the hour and which was needed to feed the population of India. But over the last 50 years, if you look back today in hindsight, there has been damages caused by Green Revolution. And that, of course, did not leave spices out as well. So you have challenges in terms of pesticide and chemical residues in spices because of soil and water contamination, because of cross contamination between food and non-food fields. You have arable land completely changing. Cherrapunji, which was once the wettest place on earth, is no longer the wettest place on earth. There has been a shift. Climatic conditions, weather conditions, weather patterns, rainfall, temperatures, all this has changed. And you could also see, for example, black pepper is today not just cultivated in Kerala, but in Karnataka, in upper regions of Karnataka, and also in the northeast, which was not traditionally black pepper growing areas. Chilies has now grown significantly into Andhra, Telangana, and now it is also moving into Madhya Pradesh. So these changes, these shifts are happening because of the shifts in the climatic conditions and newer areas that come in to mitigate the risks of soil and water contamination in traditional growing areas. So those are some of the challenges that we have had. But to also support this new developments, we have cleaner technologies, we have newer molecules which are easily biodegradable and all that. So this has been a journey. And the present industry, if you look at it, is no longer just focused on raw spices or ground spices, but into significantly higher value-added products, extracts and essential oils. Spice extracts and essential oils have been around for quite some time. And when I say solvent extraction, it's basically petroleum-based solvents such as acetone and hexane, ethyl acetate, and few alcohols as well, which are used for extraction purposes. Then you have the spice blends, where you actually have finished spice blends. And when I say spice blends, it's not just ethnic spice blends, but it's also a mix of fusion spice blends, because today tastes are universal. If you go to one of the good restaurants in UK, and if you ask for a very traditional dish, you would probably be served chicken tikka. And that's how food has transcended boundaries. And clearly, this is happening now beyond that. It is now fusion cuisine. So you have herbs from Europe, oregano and thyme and rosemary, blended with ginger and black pepper from Asia to create new flavors and new tastes which people today experiment, because like the world has become smaller, your tastes have expanded and it's become boundaryless, I would say. Spices also contribute a lot towards not just food, but also in visual appeal. Natural colors. Natural color extracts are extracted from a variety of spices. Red color you have from chilies, different types of chilies, color chilies. Then you have yellow and orange coming from turmeric. You have annatto, which gives very creamy yellow color for dairy, also coming from spices. So there has been a shift from just flavors also into colors. Then you have the antioxidants and preservatives also coming in from spices. And these are the actives which are extracted from spices in different forms. You have an extension of what we did 2000 years ago in Ayurveda in the form of functional food, health food supplements, where the actives of spices are extracted and for specific applications. For example, you have black pepper, you have piperine coming from black pepper, which is used as a enhancer of bioavailability of medicines. You have curcumin from turmeric being used as an anti-carcinogen. You have extracts of cassia being used and cinnamon being used for anti-diabetic purposes. So there are quite a few of these, and that's a booming market now. And of course in pharma as well, you have capsaicin used in specific applications, topical applications, muscle relaxants. So the industry has evolved. It's not just food and flavors or fragrances anymore. It's health food, it's antioxidants, it's preservatives, and the world is looking towards natural. And spices here really provide a whole array of such usages in our requirements even into the future. In terms of processing technologies, there has been quite a bit of evolution. Earlier we used to know about steam distillation and solvent extraction, but today, yes, solvent extraction is still one of the biggest technologies used, but the solvents used have also changed to much cleaner and greener. Today you have CO2 extracts, you have spinning cone columns with just water in it. You have ultrasound assisted extraction, you have microwave extraction, and these are slowly getting more and more commercialized. 25 years back, these were just concepts that were being used. But today, in the quest for clean spices, clean actives, we have been slowly moving away from even petrol-based solvents to even much cleaner solvents. And this is actually making a change, especially in food, pharma, nutra industry. And in another 20 years, I can dare say that the solvents that are being used today are going to be completely banned, and you will have a completely new set of cleaner solvents that are being used for extraction of spices and botanicals. And in terms of value addition, it's also an opportunity for people who are listening and who would like to take on go on the entrepreneurship bandwagon. It's also an opportunity, the value addition. And value addition is not just after you get the spice in hand. Value addition can happen right from the farm level, where you can establish research centers for bringing out hardy crops which are resistant to pests and diseases, which give better yields, which are hybrids with traditional varieties along with advanced varieties which have higher yields but are then resistant to pests and diseases as well. You have water conservation and sustainability as one of the big factors in these times. So crops which use varieties which are developed which use very little of water, these are also value addition at different stages of the crop. And you have IPM, which is integrated pest management farms. You have biopesticides that can be used. We have a possibility to, and if you actually look at it, one of the biggest areas of wastages is post-harvest, where almost 35% of your crop is wasted post the harvest because of poor storage and logistical infrastructure. This is an area for development. It's an opportunity. I'll come to it in the next slide. And of course, you're also looking at clean, niche, value-added products going forward. So if you actually start looking at numbers, nutraceuticals is approximately $30 billion and growing at almost 7% year on year. Shelf life solutions, antioxidants and antimicrobials is just about started about a few years back, but it's already a $4 billion market size. You have pest solutions, and surprisingly, it's a $125 billion market using actives of botanicals and spices. And in natural colors, again, slowly growing, but it's nowhere near its saturation or anywhere near its peak. It's about $3.5 billion. And there's a tremendous amount of value addition from the spent residues of extracts in terms of proteins, in terms of fibers, in terms of polyphenols, vitamins and minerals. Now, these are all opportunities as well for any entrepreneur to take it forward. What's the road ahead? What are the challenges? The global population is around 7.5 billion today and growing. By 2050, we expect it to be around 9 billion, but if I may again hazard a guess, it's going to be far sooner than that. In which case, we definitely need to provide support in terms of food. So how do we ensure that with continuously reducing arable land, we are still able to feed the population. And this is not specific to spices, it's to all agro commodities. We do have a challenge, and I'm sure spices too will face the same challenge. We need to face that. So new seeds, new cultivars, reducing the contamination from pesticides and illegal dyes, the demand for cleaner and natural solvent extractions, that will continue to increase. Demand for reusable and biodegradable packaging is going to increase, and continuous innovation. As I was mentioning, 25 years back, CO2 extract was not mainstream, but today it has become mainstream. So the question to us is, are we capable of seeing what the future wants? If we look at the past and if you look at the evolution today, I believe that we can actually trace what the future is going to be and be prepared for it and make ourselves future proof and future ready as well. Today, it's a world of Instagram. You want Instagrammable food. You want superfoods. Superfoods already exist from spices, from ginger, from turmeric, from cinnamon. These are already superfoods. How do you position it? How do you place it on the table, or how do you actually create an industry out of it? The opportunities that we have are still huge. It's just about, even if you look at spice industry, how it has evolved over time. Today, what we are, and in 10 years' time, I can say the industry will probably double. And there is significant scope of value addition, and I welcome you all to be a part of that. And I'm open for questions and suggestions. I'm reachable anytime on my email, which the organizers can provide. So please feel free to ask your questions, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you.